So as usual, if you have any questions or anything you'd like to see covered in this class tonight, feel free to put it into the chat. Otherwise, let your attention... Sorry, I forgot my... Otherwise, let your attention take in the room around you. And with every breath, you're just going to bring yourself back into this moment. Just call yourself back to this moment from all other moments. Call out to that part of you that is wandering your future, concerned about what will be. Call out to that part of you that is still tending to things in your day, trying to figure out what you would have done differently. Battling people from your past, trying to make sure that they don't get to feel right. Put down the sword and come on back. The only person you can harm with that sword is you. So come back, come back, come back to this moment, right here, right now. Let it dominate the screen of your mind. Let it be enough. With your attention at the forehead and the crown, let your eyes fall to a spot in front of you or on the floor, just to get them out of the way. And anchor yourself in the breath. %100% with the breath. See if you can give yourself to that level of meditation, and then we'll go further. slow down to the speed of your natural breath. Let simple things be simple. Let easy things be easy. Simply breathe and nothing else. Nothing to figure out. Nothing to achieve or master. Your highest calling in this moment is simply to breathe. Without asking it to be anything else. That is the skill. This simple act is the key to accessing all of your personal power. It's missed by most because it feels so gentle. It doesn't feel like garish power. But this is where all your resources lie. In the simplicity of something as basic as your breath. Or your footsteps. Or a mantra. Or a prayer. Or the act of brushing your teeth. The act of making a bed. The simplicity of the movements. To fully show up without asking it to be anything more than it is. That's where all your power is. That's where you find your ability to move mountains. Why? Because all your resources are present. The full system of you, unified and present, not scattered, not pushing towards something and pulling against itself at the same time, which is how you spend most of your day. It doesn't feel like an act of strength because you don't have that resistance to push against. That feeling of strength is pushing against resistance. But in almost every case, if not every case, you are both the one pushing forward and the one resisting. And so your power is split. So power doesn't feel like what you think of when you think of power. It's gentle, simple, an analogy for it that might be too out there. It's very relevant to my life, but let's give it a try. Let me see if I can find a picture to show you. So one of the things that I do, in my free time is divination. So I'm very into different systems of cartomancy, and Lenormand is one of my systems. Let me show you this picture. Only the people in the actual live class will be able to see this today, unfortunately. Oh wait, no, I can probably do this. There we go. And then we can do this. Okay. This right here is what we call a grand tableau. And these are Lenormand cards. They're 36 cards that represent an entire system of life. And generally, the way in which they're read is that you look for the card that represents the person who's asking the question, and then you look at the cards that are surrounding it and you interpret them, and they come together to form a language that give you information about things that that person is going to be dealing with in a certain time period. One of the things that people have started doing in modern times is they've started making a rule where anything that is behind the card that represents the person asking the question represents the person's past. Anything in the direct line of the person represents their present, and anything in front of the person represents their future. And this is a major deviation from how these cards have ever been read. And a lot of Lenormand purists tell people don't do that. And the reason that you don't do that is because when you do that, you are literally separating the reading into past, present, and future. You have 36 cards here that are a whole language, a whole system designed to interact with each other and provide a really full picture of something that's happening. And when you split a grand tableau into a past, a present, and a future, suddenly, for any one time period, you're no longer working with a full deck. Suddenly, a whole bunch of things that could be used to provide you with information are now missing because they're being used in another time period. And so instead, a purist reading of Lenormand wouldn't do that. They would do a separate spread for a past moment, a present moment, and then another spread for a future moment, if they needed to know that. And what that does is it makes it so that you have the entire deck informing at the same time. Everything is able to interact with everything else. Nothing is split. And so you have every possible resource to receive communication and to understand what's happening. This is exactly what I'm talking about. When you show up in this moment and you let go of your past and you let go of your future which means you let go of everything you think should happen, and so that part of you that is pulling against lets go, and you just have the gentle, stable presence of showing up in this moment. The entire system of you is at your disposal. When instead, part of you is in the future, and part of you is in the past, and part of you is focusing, pulling against that in the present, you're split. You're split. Your power is in multiple places at once. And so a lot of the feelings that are moving through you aren't even in sync with the moment you're living. And what that means is that as this moment is trying to speak to you like an oracle, the same way these Lenormand cards try and speak, you're not able to hear it. Because simultaneously, a moment that has nothing to do with this moment is also speaking. And so you're split into many different places, and you lose the cohesiveness of the whole system of you, the whole system of life. I don't know if that metaphor speaks to you as clearly as it speaks to me, but I think it is a very apt metaphor for why we do what we do. You know, I've told you guys before that story of the spiritual student whose teacher decides to tie him to a chair and just walk away. And the student starts screaming and pushing and pulling and hemming and hawing and spending all of his energy. And eventually the teacher comes back and says, if you would have just sat still, if you would have just been present with exactly the situation you're in, stopped comparing it to a different moment and making it try to be more like that moment, stop making demands, you would have seen that the way I tied the ropes, you could easily slip out of them. And even if you didn't see that, there was a knife that was within your hand's reach that you could have used to cut yourself free. You could have stood up and you could have broken the chair. But you didn't see any of that because you were just dreaming up some future moment. You were rejecting the moment that you were in. All of your power, all of your intelligence is here and now. The experience of that is not one of rigid focus. It's one of surrender to this moment. It feels gentle. It feels released. Sometimes to step into that, to free yourself from another moment that kind of has you attached to it in an addictive way, you have to use focus. You have to use holding to the moment just to get enough space from your addiction to some past or future moment. But the meditative state is not that. The meditative state occurs when, having gotten enough distance from that, you now have the personal power to let it go and show up for whatever this is right here, right now. The paces we have to put ourselves through to really learn that are difficult to obtain. You usually have to be in a pretty tough spot to really learn it in its entirety. You know, right now I'm very busy. I'm in a very busy phase of my life. It's temporary, but it's fierce. All there's time for is to show up and deal with what's in this moment. It's literally the only thing there's time to do right now. So life has ways of forcing you to learn these things. Most people will suffer and suffer and suffer until they've just made themselves so miserable with their suffering that they just have to let go of it all. And on the other side of that is a spiritual realization that hands them their personal power. It doesn't even require someone like me to say it as overtly as this. But if I say it as overtly as this, you'll be that much more ready to make that shift when the time comes. In the meantime, we practice that shift through our meditation. Are there any questions about that? It's pretty simple. It's simple, but the reality of living it is profound. And it's not something that just hearing it is enough. You have to actually live it out and show yourself. You have to remind yourself several times a day to step into the simplicity of this moment. And the breath is a great way to kind of anchor yourself in it so that there's a doorway back into it when you've lost your place. So tonight, let's spend the rest of this session in the simplicity of our breath. Let it be boring. Let it be gentle. Let it be whatever it is. If it's uncomfortable, show up for the discomfort and let it be uncomfortable. Stop rejecting it. Stay right there with it. And just let yourself live out that experience. Okay. Attention at the forehead and crown. Eyes just anchored to a spot in front of you somewhere or on the floor. And from there, just breathe. Breathe in, breathe out, and nothing else. The moment you stop pulling against it is the moment all your faculties return to you. Let simple things be simple. Let easy things be easy. at first the silence feels disorienting, it's only because you're still comparing it to a different moment. Just continue to breathe. You will find yourself completed in this moment. Whole in this moment. This moment is bigger than you realize. So much to see. With your eyes, your ears, your feelings. You don't need to reach outside of it to be happy. In fact, that's what puts happiness outside of your reach. You place it in moments that don't exist. Just find this moment exactly as it is, and the rest will take care of itself. The rest will become a reflection of the wholeness you feel in this moment. Such that life starts to take better care of you. this moment. There's nothing to be gained from leaving it. Now stay in your body. Notice the room around you. Stay in this moment, but stay in your body. With your senses just open and available. Ready to pick up the cues of this moment. When you live in this moment, life is always talking to you, mostly through imagery and moments of synchronicity. But you have to be present to pick up on that. Anna's saying it felt like her body was elevated, and when I said come back to your body, she says her vibration changed. You know, there's a whole span of vibrations that are part of this moment. In fact, every vibration is a part of this moment. Even the past and future is a part of this moment. But it's not really past and it's not really future. It's just a dysfunctional way to make use of what's present. But when you stop reaching outside of the present and you focus yourself in your body, it grounds you. Which anchors your vibration, but still your vibration remains flexible so that life can move it if it needs to communicate. If you don't have a home base, and And the body is home base for this period of time on the planet. If you don't have a home base, then you're just kind of all over the place. You bet, Anna. Okay, everybody. This week, I'd like you to practice simplicity. I'd like you to notice when you are leaving simplicity for a more complicated storyline. And I want you to return to it. Stop reaching for the loudest tool in the tool belt. This is the one no one reaches for. But it has the most potential. Okay, everybody. I will see you next week. I will be here on Thursday. Okay? Thanks so much, and have a great week.
Thanks, Liam.
You bet.